All righty, everybody. Welcome in. You know, it is, what day is it? It's Friday. And, of course, my guest this morning, of course, is the former outstanding mayor of Montgomery, Alabama. And it's former Mayor Todd Shrimp. I'm just going to call it. I think once you spend 10 years in job, you keep your name honorarily forever, don't you?
Well, it's about the only thing you get. I mean, I get about $900 a month, you know, as a retirement for that. But frankly, you can call me anything but old mayor. That's the only thing I ask. Just don't call me old mayor.
Well, it's OLE, not OLD. Anyway. Wow. So now let's get on to some things. When you left the office, you sometime after that became the governor's point man on whether or not the feasibility study, I guess, of whether or not we could do some gambling around here.
Well, I don't know about point man, but she did in fact reach out and ask me to be involved in a blue ribbon committee from around the state, from all sections, to look at what the facts were about gambling and how it might work, what the revenues would be, what venues that we ought to do. And we took a year, and of course, the minute she appointed us, we got into the pandemic, and so we only were able, frankly, to have one, maybe two in-person meetings. So the balance of that year, it was all Zoom, and I got to tell you, it was an exciting time. It was a difficult time, obviously. And November of about this time last year, frankly, is when we gave her that report. It's about a 700-page report, but the guts of it is in about 35 pages that kind of set out where we are and where we could go, and what the revenue streams were and what made sense from a venue standpoint.
What was the conclusion? What did you find? Should we have? I mean, it doesn't make much difference to keep studying it if, in fact, the legislature won't pass anything.
Right. Well, what was hoped, and still there's hope, because we've got some time. You can't even get around to voting for that until November of 2022. So we still have time for the legislature to do something. It was very, very close last time. There were some issues about where the locations would be and how many they'd be and things like that that kept that. But what we found out was we're already gambling. People are already experiencing the sins. When you go to every surrounding state that we have, illegal.
See a bunch of Alabama police.
Absolutely, a bunch of illegal sports betting. We've got the highest per capita sports betting in the United States. All of it's illegal. That is worth the effort. $700 million of revenue that could be available to us for education and for Medicaid expansion. There are a myriad of things. The only thing we didn't do that maybe might have been helpful was to suggest to the governor and to the legislature where the money ought to be spent. But that wasn't really our job. But what we did do is we took every state and we showed the top 5 or 6 organizations, causes, governmental operations that were funded, education being the biggest. You don't want to fund the operation of the government on gambling revenues. You just want to do it. But there is the opportunity for that degree of difference. And for $700 million, there's a lot of degree of difference there.
Haven't we figured out, though, that the average citizen's problem with education is not money? I mean, we'll let the technocrats, the bureaucrats figure out how to get the money and all that stuff. As a parent of a child that's in public school, I have never thought about the money. I thought about the culture.
Right.
And how it is, and we keep putting new people in the old seat, but we still getting the same results and excuses about, well, we can't do this. You want to hear the biggest excuse I hear? Well, the government says we got to do this, so I go out and find the law. I said, show me in this book where you have to put up with that kind of stuff.
It's called interpretation of whatever the regulation is. Let's just stay with Montgomery. Our infrastructure was so bad that immediately when you think about money, you think about the infrastructure and you think about the capital things. And we're in decent shape. We're not there yet. A lot of maintenance needs to be done. But what we really ought to be thinking about with this additional monies, the monies even that's coming in now, through this pandemic and the CARES Act and all of those kinds of things, we need to be thinking about how to get more people in the classroom that can help these kids, how we can get additional coaching, how we can have longer school years, how we can make sure that our buses don't break down, how we can make sure that we got food that we can feed those kids, how that we can remediate those that come to us that aren't prepared to get there. We need to put that money into the education side of the equation. We spend most of our money on the capital and the infrastructure side of the equation, and until we decide that we want to spend the money on educating our kids and not providing a surrounding, we're just not going to get there. Lamp is a perfect example. Lamp was a great school in the dilapidated school there on the west side. They're in a very nice facility, and they're doing quite well still. But maybe perhaps not as good as they were doing when they were the other. They still rank in the top 1, 2, 3, or 4. So we got to spend it on educating our kids.
Okay. Somebody sent me a question, asked you.
Is it a hard one?
It could be. It could be. He says, does the former public safety director, Christopher Murphy, get a city retirement after 7 years of service?
I don't think so, but I'm not positive. I think there's a 10-year requirement. Mm-hmm. But again, I am not positive. But forget the personality.
Right.
Forget the personality. Right. You need a public safety director. Half of the entire city budget, half of the personnel in the city is in public safety. And what you've got are 4 silos. And nobody is coordinating with those silos that are out there. It's not about the
fire,
emergency management and communication. See, communication starts the whole process. The fire and the police, they don't do anything until you get the 911 call in the dispatch. Yeah. And you get complaints all the time about people. Police didn't show up. You run the rabbit and something happened there at the call taker, or there was a malfunction, a mechanical malfunction. So the public safety, and you look at all the other cities around. They got public safety directors, and if somebody really wanted to get on the bandwagon about it, Birmingham has got a high number of homicides. They've always had a high number of homicides. Nationally, homicides are up. I'll bet you if you look at a per capita basis, even though we're up, we're not up as if these other places. I mean, you take the Chicagos of the world and these other cities, but it needs that coordinative group. It's almost like, Kevin, you know this better than me, it's like the military. You've got, each service has got a chief of staff. They are not operational people. Just like the joint chief of staff. They're not operational people. They're administrative people. They're policy people. But when it comes to the operation, the president is in charge. Go straight to the combatant commanders to make that happen. It's exactly the same way in law enforcement, whether it be public safety, not law enforcement. The chiefs would go straight to the mayor to have that. Obviously, if Mayor's smart, he keeps the public safety director in charge. But let's get off that high horse, because there's not one today, and maybe tomorrow there will be. I don't know.
A couple of weeks ago, and I don't want to bring you into this is not to be critical of our current mayor, and I know you don't want to get in any kind of conversation like that, but I am wondering, a few months or so ago, he was trying to pass a non-discriminatory ordinance. Listen, theoretically, I think everybody agrees nobody should be discriminated against. Nobody. Right. But we got federal laws out there. We got state laws out there. Is that something that you thought about doing? Is that?
Oh, we were asked to do it. Oh, absolutely. Every mayor that's ever been in that office in Montgomery, and I suspect other places around, because it's a coordinated and consolidated effort. There was that effort to do that. To be very specific about that. But at that time, as we looked at it, they're already a protected class. All of the protected classes are there. And one of the things, and we met with them. We had several meetings with the leadership of Rainbow Coalitions and some of those. And we ended up appointing a person on the city staff that would be the liaison, if you will, with the particular organization. There was Southern Poverty had a situation with the community, the LGBTQ community, and I went and I spoke to them. People were shocked that the mayor would come to something like that. Look, all individuals have their rights, but if you're going to start spelling out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's probably 20 more that you got to put into it. So the ordinance says you just won't discriminate. Period.
Right.
End of story.
I think that's good. I think that's a good thing. Panhandling.
Yep.
It's always been around.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But it's gotten worse.
Memorial.
But it's gotten worse in the last couple of years because now it's a job. Now you got people on the street who just, I see them get out of their cars. I see them there's a law that says, a state law that says you cannot do that. You cannot loiter. Why is it that we allow it to happen? Because we get threatened by the SPLC and people like that. I mean, the law, it's a state law. You can't do it.
Well, it's under the guise of free speech.
That's like getting an abortion out of privacy.
Well, that's subject to controversy, too. But at the end of the day, before we left office, there was a lawsuit filed by a couple of organizations against not a city ordinance. All we did was adopt the state ordinance.
State ordinance, right.
So they sued us because of the state ordinance. What I wanted to do and tried to do, and it got caught in the transition, frankly, was it's not illegal to loiter, but it's illegal to go into the rights of way to collect the money.
Well, now, according to the state law, it's illegal to loiter downtown on public street. That's what it says.
I don't think so.
No, I read it. Now, It's one of those weird things that I actually read.
Well, then why did we pay to settle a lawsuit?
And that is the question that I keep asking people, and nobody can tell me the answer.
Well, I can't tell you the answer either because it was there when I was there, but we did not make any settlement. We met with them. We did, in fact, look at the ordinance, and that's when we started talking about the fact that we're not suppressing free speech and a person's right to speech, or even a person's right to protest or to be where they are, but to come into the rights of way and disrupt traffic. You know, we used to, on this show, we used to get the calls all the time about the guy that had the golf course.
He's not out there anymore.
The East, he may have passed, frankly, along the way. But my executive officer back then, Matt Marr, he took that on as a personal responsibility, and we closed a lot of people. We relocated a lot of people, but at the end of the day, it is a problem. It continues to be a problem, and I hear from city council people all the time and others about we need to do something about it.
Okay.
Now, some places have made it illegal for the driver or the passenger of the car to give them money. I mean, that's shut down. Of course, you know the whole issue about.
Now that would be free speech. If I wanted to give you my money, that's free speech. But if you're not there for me to give you my money, then I don't know.
There's one thing about people needing the money. It's the other thing, as you said, for it to be a business, to be coordinated, to have sign-up sheets. But you work your 2 hours, you get your $50 or $100. You give $10 to the coordinator. You go get your hair done and come back 3 hours later and be back on the street.
I think we ought to get them. They ought to get a license, $15 license to do it. And then it's a job. Then you got permission.
But then you still got the public safety issue.
Well, that's true too. All right, we'll come back. You have stayed in Montgomery since you got out, and I want to know why you stay, why you don't just move and go someplace else.
Glad to answer that.
We'll be back.
The same reason you stay.
Cheaper to keep it. We'll be back.
Just because I call you up.
Your WSFA.
And we're back. All right. Before I get to any more questions, I think there's somebody on the phone. I think they're... good morning. Who's this? Must have lost him there. Anyway.
I'm surprised I had never missed Daisy. You know, she was honored last month, I guess it was, for the community hero. Yeah, right. I can't imagine a more deserving person, because I've been very impressed with every one of them since they started coming. You know, usually you know them or you know about them. They've had a couple in there that I never heard of until then.
Let me see who's on the phone. Good morning. Who's this?
Hey, Elk Man, this is Doug Singleton.
Hey!
Doug?
That was me on the hold there, but you don't know how to work the phone still. So.
Well, you know, I'm still learning. I'm a work in progress.
Todd, good luck this weekend. I was on the show Wednesday, and I still have a headache. So.
Hey, listen, man, I came on every month for about 10 or 11 years with this guy. It's always fun to be on this show. Actually, they ask pretty intelligent questions, truthfully.
And I don't have any agendas.
Yeah, right.
But we will ask some of the questions. There are certain questions in this town only I can ask.
Well, this guy right here is the real deal. We need to, well, let me back up. If we had metro government where you would combine city and county, this guy would be at the top of the list to be heading that, because he cares about the entire community. Even though he's elected as a county commissioner, he cares about what happens in the city, and he frankly is tied with Elton as vice chair of the county to work with the city on all these projects. Plus, he's got $84 million in his pocket, along with the city, that they got to decide how to spend in the next couple of years.
And we've been trying to figure out, like we gave him the blues on the other day. Well, why is it that some of the same places who've needed help for decades haven't gotten the help yet?
Because they don't know how to ask for it.
So Madison Park they
don't know how to ask. They don't have the projects. They haven't done their own homework. A lot of that has to do with where the leadership is, whether it be the neighborhood associations or whether it be the city council. Rent assistance. A huge amount of money has come down from the federal government to the state for rent assistance. About 3 times what we have been able to get out. $43 million. It's a big number, but that's for the entire state. Out of about $120 million that's available has been distributed to the people. A lot of people just don't know how to.
Well, maybe our leadership is not letting them know.
Maybe.
Doug, did you know that?
Yes, I'm very aware of that.
Yeah, they've got a. Yeah, he was getting criticism the other day because nobody would return a call.
But if our people don't know, then that means our public officials are not doing a very good job of letting them know.
Well, the reason I called, Kevin, I was going to ask Todd, since he's been out of office now nearly 2 years, is there anything that, looking back now, you'd say, well, I wish I'd have done this, or maybe I wish I wouldn't have done that? Is there anything, Todd, that's come to mind the past 2 years that you said, if I was back in office, I would definitely have done this, or do this?
Yeah, we'd have finished all these projects that we started so that we'd have got them before the pandemic got here. It has to be in the educational arena. We've spent a lot of time trying to form our own city school system, probably 3 years and a good little bit of money. We should have realized earlier on that just wasn't going to happen, and try to go in a different direction to try to work within the system that we had. The other one probably has to do with our cyber and our smart city. We left a lot of initiatives that were ready to go, particularly in concert with Alabama Power, that all we needed was a couple of 3 months, had the money, some of those arenas. And then, of course, not only just leaving, but we left in about this time in November in 19, and then if you remember, March the 13th, I think it was, is when the pandemic shut everything down. So there's really only 4 months, and then when you get a new administration coming in, you know, no disrespect, but it takes a minute or two to find the bathroom even to be able to get that done. So I think it would have to center around education. We were just talking about the dedication yesterday down at Rod Frazier made happen yesterday, obviously with the city and the military and the county's support. He gave me the dickens because I failed at trying to improve the educational system. And I'll accept that criticism, even though we all know the city, nor the county, frankly, has any responsibility or authority, I should say, over the school system. But we do have all of the responsibility.
Exactly. And, one thing we talk about the $86 million that city county is getting for the school system, getting $120 million.
Right.
On top of that, we've got the ad valorem tax coming in.
Right.
So funding should not be the issue going forward in the next 5 or 6 years.
And Doug, that's exactly correct, because, you know, I went as chairman of the county commission in 2004 and then as mayor in 2009. That was the recession, the Great Recession. So when we get in office in 2009, there's no money. The reserves are gone. We were about $8 to $10 million down in revenue stream. The administration of city, county, state, federal, there's tons of money that are available, and you know better than any of us, we got to spend it right, and we don't necessarily have to spend it all on the capital side of the equation. And the educational side, as we said earlier, you probably didn't hear, we've got to figure out how to help the people in the classroom and the kids learn better, as opposed to just building nice facilities.
All right.
Well, you're right. I heard that part of it, and with Amazon coming, that's 500 more jobs.
Right.
And our workforce now is not up to, probably not up to standard it needs to be as far as training and all, and providing skilled workers. I mean, that's a huge challenge that we're going to have, especially when Amazon comes.
We're doing a better job today than we have in the past on the technical side of the equation. Some of that's within the public school system too.
Thanks, Doug. I got to take another call. Always
see you, Doug. Thank you, Bug.
Somebody reminded me a few minutes ago that one of your legacies, and I think it's a good one. You assisted. I know you assisted in Mercy House. You assisted Valiant Cross. And I think
Charles Lee.
And Charles Lee will help. That's right. My child.
Right.
And I think that's part of your legacy, and we do appreciate you helping, because Mercy House has been a blessing to a lot of people. That's my dog, my child, the guy who was and Valiant Cross is just a jewel.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's the medicine that Montgomery needs. They're doing great things. They're doing great outreach. I supported them then to the extent that we could from a public standpoint. I certainly contribute privately. Ken Austin and I and Charles Lee, we've been helping them raise some funds. We were involved in the transfer from WSFA to Mercy House, the MAP, the old facility there. The telethon that they had raised some needed money. Ken Austin's a special kind of guy. Charles Lee's a special kind of guy. Brian Kelly's a special kind of guy. All of them, we need hundreds of them doing the things that, and there are many other organizations in this city that are doing those kinds of deals. And there may not be but 500 or 600 kids in each one of those organizations, but if you take 100 organizations by 500 or 600 kids, pretty soon you're dealing with good numbers.
You change
you're changing the environments for them.
Good morning. Who's this?
Good morning to y'all.
Morning.
Avis Love Lewis, being denied and left out, 21 years veteran in Montgomery, Alabama. I want to thank him very much, Kevin, for all he has done in favor of people, and God sees that. I want to thank him for that, okay? I believe in giving your due what you do, and God will do the rest. But I sort of have a problem when it comes to the people that need sewage being left out. And also with now, I might have misunderstood him, saying that, you know, because they're not doing what they're supposed to do, putting it like they don't know what to do. That's their representative's fault. And then, too, anybody can step up that know how to help these folks do the proper paperwork, should do it in the name of God. And I'm going to leave it like that, sir. Thank you.
All right. When you said that they haven't asked for it, you're not talking about the regular citizen.
No. I'm talking in general. When there's a need out there and there's a cause out there, there needs to be leadership in trying to get something done. There are a lot of places in our community that need to have those services. Not unfortunately, but that's a private sector side of the equation, and it has
but
to
not
do,
sewage or anything.
Water and sewage is a private company. The Montgomery Water and Sewer Board is a private entity. The city has representatives on the board, but it is a private company. The city of Montgomery, nor the county of Montgomery, can tell the waterworks where to put a sewer. Work with them, try to get grants, try to help them.
We certainly have been educated this morning. I'm thinking that that's a responsibility of our government, so it is.
It's a private entity. It's been that way since mid-30s. It was sold. The city needed to raise some capital back in that day around after the recession, the depression, I should say. It was sold to a private company, run by a private.
Are we the only city that has?
No, there are others. There are others like that. As a matter of fact, I think.
Why couldn't the city take it over?
I think it's a financial situation, frankly. But at the end of the day, we looked at some areas, and you're talking $100,000 per household, just to get the infrastructure in place. Then it's another $3,000 or $4,000 to get the taps. Now, when we were on the county commission, Giles Williams and some others took the lead in North Montgomery and got a couple of $1 million of grant money to be able to put in out there. We've been able to, at one time, in another spot in Montgomery, out west, we were able to get the $2,000 per subscriber. There were 20 of them to get that from a grant, but we never could find the additional dollars for the $5 or $6 million that was going to need to be put in infrastructure for 20 or 25 people.
So, if in fact they get this money, well, they got the money, but since the water issue is a private entity, am I to assume then that we can't use any of that money to help the folks over there with this?
Yes, you could. Absolutely. And there's monies now available to be able to do that. So this is the best opportunity over the next couple of years with the monies that's coming in to the local governments to be able to do that, because infrastructure, the $1.2 trillion that we just passed, and I don't think the president signed yet, but he certainly will. Those funds are going to be available for water and sewer as well. And so to the extent that there's a planning commission out there, that all of that needs to go through, there's a board that the city council appoints.
Right, which on those. So I didn't realize it. So the city actually, so blaming our city council, so their job is to advocate.
Correct.
For those things, but there's nothing.
Advocate, coordinate. It's almost like, frankly, under Act 618, the city council cannot direct the activities of any employee of the city. That's the mayor's job. And so from that standpoint, it's exactly the same thing with the water board. We don't direct, but we certainly can bring to the attention. We can work, we can negotiate, we can work together, we can support, we can finance. Help finance and things like that.
So that's why all these years it's just been a conversation and nothing has happened.
Well, it's more than a conversation. Generally, you grow where the growth is going to be, and that's where a lot of the capital goes into areas. As a matter of fact, the Montgomery Water and Sewer Board have sewer systems all over the central part of the state and even into Georgia. They own sewer systems in Georgia, the Montgomery Water Board.
Well, that's a doggone shame. Until today, I thought that was ours. The city.
Kevin, there's always the rest of the story.
Well, y'all need to be telling us that story.
Well, I've told that story before.
I never heard that. I didn't know. So all we can do then, each member of the city council can put a member on that board. Well, they need to come out and talk to us about, because we've been whining about it not being done.
Right.
Macedonia, Willie Cook spearheaded that one.
Right.
But I've never known that we had no authority.
Authority is the operative word.
Right.
Right. Now, you know the old saying, he who has the gold rules?
Yeah.
Well, there are a couple of entities at the local level in the state of Alabama that are AAA rated. The Montgomery Water Sewer Board is one of those. So they are well off financially and do make a ton of investment in the growth areas and spend a lot of money rehabilitating some of the areas that we've already that need to have that rehabilitation. But frankly, from a citizen standpoint, going through the city council, developing a plan, getting some grant money, helping get the city to agree to fund some of that.
Let me ask you, I know Alabama Power is a utility and it's private. It's not owned by...
Same.
But let me ask something then. Then does the city have the legal right to rescind their business license if they can't seem to do what they need to do?
Yeah. I think the technical answer is probably yes. The practical answer isn't that.
Yeah, no. But
now they pay to the city of a franchise fee, just like power, just like telephone. They pay, I think it's 3% of revenues come to the city in terms. Let me give you another little deal. Guess what? They own all the fire hydrants, and we rent the fire hydrants from the water and sewer. We pay them a few $1 million for those.
Boy, somebody making a bundle on our money and we're not benefiting from it.
I told you they were AAA rated. No. We benefit. We benefit. There's no issue. We benefit because we've got a tremendous water system, clean, pure. We can be very, very proud.
There's some folks out there in the North Pass out there who would disagree with you in Newtown because they got brown water. Some of them coming up. So I mean.
Well, it could be pipes that they control as well.
And who's responsible for the pipes?
I wish I knew the answer to that. I suspect that from the tap in, it's the customer.
What the hell we know about pipes?
I don't. That's what I said. I don't know.
I mean, what do we know about pipes?
I just know when I had a leak in my yard, I ended up spending a couple of grand to get it fixed.
Wow. Good morning. Who's this? You're on air with Todd Strange.
Good morning, Mayor Strange.
Good morning, sir.
I want to thank you again. I think I thanked you about the time you transitioned.
I recognize the voice.
Yeah, not polarizing this community.
Yeah.
And as I listened to you this morning, you haven't changed, and that's your legacy with me. And because we are so polarized and divided now, it's unreal. Especially as we live through some of the things, and you and I have been around each other for a while, and we don't need to go backwards. I got one thing I want to say to Kevin. Kevin, you remember when I put the outhouse in front of my business?
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And nobody would say anything, right? Don Markwell gave me 3 hours to explain the structure of what Todd is trying to tell you about. You must not have listened to that.
Nah,
anyway, Todd, good luck to you, my friend.
You're kind. I appreciate that.
Let's take my last break. We'll come back to the last segment. His Honor, the former mayor of the city of Montgomery, Todd Strange. Boy, I've been educated this morning. I've learned more this morning. I've learned in a long time about the way the city actually works. So we paying them for them water hydrants out there. Huh. All righty then. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't really mentioned it the last couple of days because I've been working hard, of course. But don't forget our helping hands. Go to my website, and we're trying to raise money again this year, like we do every year. We try to do this and help some folks out who don't ask, who do not ask. You cannot beg us for money because we don't do that. We let other people put you in for it, because when you do that, they know your struggles. They know who you are. So go to my website and check that out. And
what kind of budget will you have for that?
well, I'm trying to get $15,000. However,
I have a check here, but it won't be $15,000.
well, I just throw that out there. You know, I mean,
well, we need to have everybody make a contribution, because you know what we ought to be remembering is, you know, God's blessed us. Now, how can we be a blessing to others?
Yeah, that's true. Let me take one more call for you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning. Who's this?
Good morning. Come on back to be mayor again, Mayor.
You're so kind. I appreciate that. Every now and again, I have a nightmare about that. So.
Yeah. But no matter who's in that office, somebody is going to complain about you. And don't let me get out of here without showing some respect to the current mayor, Stephen Reed. I admire both of you guys, and I've disagreed with both of you, but once you left this room, you didn't think nothing about it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I just cannot imagine having to manage this type of situation with this pandemic. And, you know, we probably use that excuse too much, but there was no playbook. There was no playbook. Good news is that we've created that Big Five, now the Big Ten, and they had a lot of conversation between that group,
right,
to be able to make some good decisions. Now, Stephen certainly is not doing things that I would do, but at the end of the day, he has a different set of circumstances, and my only hope and trust is that the monies that he has available to him, that he can use in a way that we will invest in our community, so that that investment then will return dividends to us in the future.
Well, I think, you know, our city is well served by you, and I think it's going to be well served by Stephen. We don't have to agree on everything, but we have to work without being disagreeable. Do you ever lend the mayor a hand every once in a while?
You know, he's called a time or two, and on the school ad valorem tax, I stood with him to do that. I said then I could not have done that 5 years ago, but I think we have made some progress. We certainly have made the progress we need to make. That was before we knew that there was going to be all this money coming, and so from that standpoint, I was more than happy to help. I talked to a lot of the city council. Charlie Jenright's been a great friend. Some of the projects, this whitewater project that's going on in the Coliseum, a lot of the smart city, the internet, some of the things that we know about. It's been, I hope, helpful to give them background for that. Not to tell them how to do anything, but just tell them what the lay of the land was.
Have you seen Bobby lately?
You know, I never even saw Bobby when I was in office. I actually wanted to name something on the riverfront for Bobby, because that was, in fact, his legacy, that whole riverfront starting and things like that. He's so humble. He just didn't want anything. The only time I've seen Bobby Bright since he left office was when we had a going away party for Jeff Downs, his chief of staff, and he did come to that. That's the only time I've seen him. I've seen Lynn a time or two, but I hear about him. You know, he's riding his tractor and doing other things. Yeah. He's actually doing something up there relative to that set or that site where they made the big fish. That you call him. His cell number's on the gate if you want a tour or something like that. Somebody told me that the other day.
Okay. One more question, a couple minutes we got left. You stayed here, and I appreciate you staying here, which means that you're still committed to Montgomery, even though you're not in office anymore. What has made you stay? Well,
first of all, I came here in 1977. We got a great homestead. I got 2 kids and 6 grandkids. We have roots here. This is our home. Interestingly, when I got married to Linda, after college, she said, "There's 2 places I never want to live, Mobile and Montgomery." Well, we didn't make Mobile, but the reason was her hair. It's too curly. So at the end of the day, we're going to stay here. And that doesn't mean we're not going to travel.
You do a lot.
Yeah, well, it's fun, you know. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And thank you, frankly, for your longevity, Mayor of the Airways. Has anybody ever run against you?
Not yet, but I'm prepared. You know, the bags will stay packed. You jump boots shine, and something happens. You got to have you got to have an alternate plan.
Yeah,
I got one. I got an alternate plan. I'm going to move to Costa Rica next door to you.
Well, we actually sold that place.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we did, but we was pretty smart, and we negotiated use of it for the next 4 years, 12 weeks. During that period of time. So we don't have the burden of ownership, but we have the pleasure of using it.
Well, that's outstanding. Well, Mayor, thank you for showing up.
Thanks,
and
Kevin.
Come by any time, and it's always great to see you.
Walt Maddox said, he said, you know what they call former mayors? And I said, no, what do they call you? His Highness, Eminence, So he said, no, they don't, but I appreciate you calling.
Well, I'll always call you.
Thanks.
We'll be back.
I'm fine, baby. How are you? I would sing, but I know that it's just not enough. My words were cold and flat, and you deserve